If there's a term for me when it comes to gaming, it has to be fence setter. While my gaming experience began with beating cops in Road Rash and finished with spamming enhancement tracks against the Elite Four, gaming seeped into pop culture in the past decade like nothing I'd seen before. It was becoming a multi-billion-dollar industry, and I was stuck trying to beat Baron Corbin in WWE 2K19. It wasn't that I never tried making it my own. I understood the nuanced landscape of gaming when it came to world building, lore, characters, and music. I just was never patient enough to build a connection. This until a cold January evening, heading into the main event of Wrestle Kingdom 13 between Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kenny Omega, a strange entrance package starts playing. Made with nostalgic 8-bit animation scored with the charming music, the video kinda left me in tears, wanting to know where this came from. The entrance theme for Kenny was a beautiful rock anthem that made me wonder why he would use it for his apparent final match for New Japan Pro Wrestling. My search led me to Game Metal's YouTube channel and a video titled Hopes and Dreams Save the World. It contains a metal cover of the two songs Hopes and Dreams and Save the World from the soundtrack of indie RPG Undertale. I sat through various anime only for the soundtrack, but this was the first time a game's OST intrigue, hell, charmed me to this extent. And there I was, merely days after being introduced to the emotions that a soundtrack provided me without any context. I downloaded Steam on my system, used my brother's login, and started Undertale to find that context. Like hell was I missing out on a heartwarming ride that I was promised in my first viewing of that video. This was where my gaming life would turn, my call to action. And I was not doing this the wrong way. To make the moment even more special, I decided to name my character Zeus after my dog. As per the story, Zeus walks up to Mount Ebert and falls over a barrier separating the surface world from the terrifying depths of the underground, where monsters dwell. The entire quest of the game is getting your main character back to the surface by solving puzzles and interacting with monsters that have different perceptions towards humans. The first of these monsters that Zeus encounters is Toriel, who is kind and motherly. She guides us through the ruins, makes us spies that we could use in battles later on in the game, and just wants us to stay with her and not move ahead to more dangerous territories. This initial phase forms the core theme of the game, which is letting go. It is not us, the players, who have to pass a hurdle, but an NPC like Toriel who has to go through a change in herself so we could carry on with our quest. This makes it all the more heartbreaking when I have to fight Toriel and ultimately kill her. And in her dying breath, she just wants us to be happy and safe. Undertale is cruel. It makes us interact with these lovable monsters who have to change the way they think about humans and ultimately makes us fight them. But it also gives us a choice to show mercy every now and then, to defy the ominous ideology that the main antagonist Flavia resonates, that in this world, it is kill or be killed. But we do all we can to not become that prophecy. The moments of mercy give us determination that in our quest to complete the story, we do not have to go on a killing rampage like other games. Undertale resonates the ideas of morality, of how far we would go to hurt others when there is no other choice. Or even if there was, would we still choose to hurt them? This until the very end, where the choice we make does not even matter. As I was about to spare Asgard, the final boss, the king of the underground, and the last hurdle in my path to going back home, in a final showcase of humanity that Zeus will not partake in unnecessary violence, Asgard is anyway killed by Flavi. The battle with Flavi is like a fever dream out of the most terrifying episodes of Courage the Cowardly Dog. It is a long and grueling button spammer, but it is the final fight until glory. And then it just ends. As I cross the barrier, the screen plays the credits in the most antithetical fashion. Where was Hopes and Dreams? Where was Save the World? Hell, Megalovania? Right before I enter the boss fight with Asgard, I meet with Sans, who judges my actions by the number of monsters I've killed. Doesn't matter if it's one or more. He tells me the experience points that I needed in order to increase my love were in reality the execution points that increased my level of violence. And just like that, I felt tainted. The quest that started to experience heartwarming moments became a sinister nightmare. Within minutes, Zeus becomes not the guilty hero, but a terrifying and inhumane machine. In the end credits phone call from Sans, he tells me that while I completed my quest to return to my home, I left the underground in a state worse than it was before I went there, and that I promise him never to return back. I won. What went wrong? It is a game. I had to do what I have to do to complete the mission. Isn't that what gaming is? Where was the glory? I had to make it right. To the people who have played Undertale and are rightfully upset with me killing Toriel, believe me, I felt as ashamed and guilty having realized that there could have been a different outcome. Undertale is an indie RPG created by Toby Fox in 2015. It has a unique mechanic in that the decisions that a player makes in the game has a chance to heavily impact the direction the game goes and how much of the lore it reveals to the players. There are three main gameplays: neutral, pacifist, and genocide runs. I, in my naivety, played a version of the neutral run where I killed off more than half the monsters and spared only a few. As much as I wanted to redeem myself, I was intrigued by these different modes and started my second gameplay, the true pacifist run. A tad more difficult, the true pacifist run is the mode that reveals a truer version of the story if the player avoids killing any of the monsters. I was faced with the same challenge of having to leave Toriel, but this time not by killing her, but passively changing her mind as she avoids hitting me with her moves. With enough patience, I learned that the game's attempts at coaxing me to hurt these characters could be avoided. As this time, I rejoiced in Toriel's warm embrace before leaving to make things right. As I endured hit after hit and talked with the monsters, I understood the different philosophies and motivations they had. I understood Papyrus wasn't just a dimwit and easily influenced skeleton, but that his wish to be recognized as a royal guard was just a cry for friendship. I learned to appreciate Undyne's spirit towards protecting the king and the underground, and watched as she embraces friendship with others and me with profound awkwardness. I witnessed Alphisa's heartwarming determination as she learns to let go of the burdens of her past actions and confesses her feelings for Undyne. I understand Sans and the weight he carries on his soul under his witty demeanor, as he understands that every time the game's save and load mechanics are used, a new timeline is formed, and that there is no true end, as it can all be reset in an instant. And most of all, I relate to Asgore, whose perspective we are the most familiar with, as he had to kill human souls in order to gain enough power to wage a war against humans for murdering his son. The guilt he bears in his soul about the things he has done in a mission he felt was right is the same guilt I felt, having killed these characters just so I could finish a mission. I realized why Toriel would live alone in the ruins to protest against the lens as Asgore would go for revenge. The game creates moments that are authentic and genuine, and I wanted to know more. I was intrigued by the fascinating lore of the game and the little intricate elements it revealed, so much so that I wanted to play the game over and over to find out what each different choice leads to. I achieve my main mission of reaching the stage where I hear the soundtrack's hopes and dreams and save the world, this time with appropriate context as I remind each of the friends that I made on the journey who lost their memories of me. Flowey, who now has revealed his final form, Israel Dreamer, berates my innocent ideals with taunts that induce anxiety and a sense of hopelessness, but my friends give me the hope and determination to fight through it and come back to save Israel from his own obsession. The theme of letting go comes back as I help Israel release himself from his obsession of repeating this until the end of time with his lost friend. He realizes that it's okay to let go. Maybe that is what Toby wanted to tell us the most through Undertale. How it is best to move on from something that you had once loved deeply. When I completed the true pacifist run, I felt catharsis that I would have never thought I would feel after a game. The game even allows a player to trace our steps back to the very beginning and meet all the different monsters we encountered as they express their excitement to venture onto the surface. It's a 30-minute sequence full of warmth as the closing montage shows all the characters fitting into the human world and living in peace. It was everything I imagined and more. After that video I saw at Wrestle Kingdom, it is perhaps even more so cruel that I wasn't done with the game. In a post-game scene, I was once again confronted by Flavi, who tells us there was one more final threat to the peace I brought to this world. A threat that could erase all the hard work and place the monsters back into the underground without them having any memory of the end. And that threat was me. If I so chose to, I could reset the entire timeline all over again and write over the perfect ending the game gave me, since the third and the final route was a genocide run. A route that activates story elements only when the player decides to kill every monster they encounter. It is almost as if Toby Fox was commenting on the futile and human desire to be obsessive. And the genocide run is just that. It shows us our own perversion as we play this game again and again, just to find out what happens, just because we can. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying playing a game multiple times and doing things differently is an inherently bad thing, but Undertale puts a moral weight behind those kinds of decisions that makes it hard not to feel a sense of guilt knowing we could have let go. After all, a game's sole purpose is so that a player wins. The end, and Undertale subverts that to show us a mirror, literally and figuratively. Hitting the reset button had to be the hardest thing I had done as far as I could remember. And just like that, all the moments that I had created and a peaceful world in which I could choose to happily stay on the surface with Toriel or go my own way just vanished. But every game is a quest. Any game's true purpose is for the player to uncover the lore and finish it. And a lot of people before me would have had to take such a decision. It is how they have such profound knowledge about the game. So yeah, I started my genocide run. I enter the ruins and I meet Toriel as she saves me from Flavi. Oblivious to the past, my fingers tremble. Undertale has given me feelings that I never thought a game of all things could give me. I'm glad I could have found it. It is quirky and charming, but when it needs to, becomes grim and terrifying. It's the perfect gel of emotions like these that make Undertale one of the most beloved RPGs of recent times. And I was on my way to finally getting to hear Megalovania play as I fight Sans in apparently the toughest battle in this game. It's been a year and a half actually, since I left playing Undertale. Turns out I couldn't get myself to killing Goat Mom with the knowledge that I can choose not to. Okay, I know it sounds a little tacky that I feel so much about fictional monsters, but I find it kinda poetic stopping right here and living with Toriel for over a year and not giving her the choice to make a hard call. And it's rather anticlimactic, and I'm sorry about that. But I've realized something crucial about myself through this journey. I started on my quest thinking I can work my way to loving games and finally claim the badge of a gamer, but I can't be everything. My FOMO or fear of missing out has made me feel plenty anxious about not indulging in a lot of things when I should have used the time to appreciate stuff that I actually do care about. This is not to say Undertale was a waste of time. I believe the best form of art is not something that gains acclaim, but rather one that teaches us something far more valuable than just a moment of release. Undertale somewhat taught me that, and it made me experience what making friends feels like again. It's not a film where you're seeing different characters free of external determinism interact, but a role-playing game, and a kind at that gives so much weight to the decisions we make. When the snowman requests us if we could hold the snowman piece until we reach the surface, so that at least part of it could experience what it's like to see the world, you can choose to use that piece in any of the battles, or hold it until you do reach the end. When Toriel makes you a butterscotch pie that could restore all HP, you have a choice of using it in a battle, or just hold it because it's the last memory that you have of her. It's a warm and fuzzy feeling that doing some very inconsequential things could give you. And that's the charm of Undertale. I might not be the greatest fan of the game for not even completing it. Gatekeepers might even call me fake, but I genuinely feel love towards the game, even if I do not feel the need to play it over and over again. Because I defy Flavi and I listen to Toby when he quotes me if I have better things to do. Because I do. In his review of the game, Austin Walker talks about the resonant message in Undertale that we can love games without feeling the need to wring every last ounce of content from them. And that's an important message for pop culture today. There has an intense need to drop in Easter eggs for people to uncover. I'm not saying I'm not guilty of doing it. It's cool. But it has also led to a lot of smearing that deeply impacts our self esteem because of our seething desire to quantify smartness with the number of these hidden content we can decode. I've been through that rabbit hole once. I wasn't going to do it again. I'm content with having felt the need to venture into Undertale, feel guilty at not doing things the right way, redeeming myself of that guilt, and not getting addicted. I had an amazing time playing the game, and I look back at it fondly, without feeling the need to play the game ever again. If there's a bigger message than that, it probably is never get sentimentally attached to the name you give your character because. But that does not mean I cannot jam to Megalovania every now and then. Context or not, it's amazing.